Is it just me, or does it feel like everyone's so negative nowadays? Whether it's the news, politics, or God forbid, Twitter. The one I find most funny though is gaming. A space that's supposed to be about escaping the hardships of our real life to experience art, beauty, and just have fun. But instead, recently, is so full of hate, vitriol, and anger. I truly believe gaming has never been better, that the industry has more creativity and variety than ever before, and that so many amazing games are being made today that eclipse the greatness of everything that's come before. You see, games didn't get worse, the players did. They lost those countless free hours to grind with friends after school and make memories. They lost the appreciation and novelty of experiencing new stories for the first time. And most importantly, they lost that childlike wonder that sparked their imagination in the first place. It's pretty common to hear people say things like, games used to be better. And I get where they're coming from. I really do. I remember back in the late 2000s when it felt like every month had a new giant blockbuster game that blew expectations out of the water and gave us some of the most memorable games ever. Games like BioShock, Mass Effect, The Elder Scrolls Oblivion, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, and Halo 3. It was a golden age of the industry in many ways, and a lot of you who were growing up in this period like me remember it so fondly too. But that doesn't mean that games nowadays are worse. In fact, I think it's quite the opposite. You see, I loved BioShock as a kid, and many older than me loved games like Deus Ex and System Shock when they grew up. But Arcane Studios' 2017 Prey is just better in every way, and yes, I really do think in almost every single way. Most people don't know that though, because they haven't played each of these games. Prey has more fluid, inventive, and varied gameplay. It has that same deep and creepy storytelling, imaginative world building, and love and care that shine throughout, but with even deeper systems to keep you engaged the entire time. I loved the characters of Mass Effect when I grew up as a kid, but playing again in the Legendary Edition after beating Cyberpunk 2077 showed me just how much better character animations, writing, voice acting, and overall performances have gotten. The emotional moments in Cyberpunk, for me at least, truly triumphed the entire Mass Effect trilogy, even with the crazy amount of nostalgia I had for the likes of Liara and Tali. My favorite co-op game growing up was Portal 2, and I never thought any game could ever come close. But last year, It Takes Two released, and it was the most unique and fun experience I've ever had playing with friends. Games that defined me as a kid like the Stanley Parable, which people argued at the time was so genius and inventive, have been passed by the unbelievable twists and turns of very recent entries like Inscryption. Because at the core of it all, what makes each of these games so great is the art, the messages, the characters, the moments, and the fun and riveting gameplay. There are so many games today that possess all of these qualities. You see, things didn't get worse. Gamers just stopped looking, and instead started to hate alongside the rise of social media. I can hear some of you screaming at your screens right now and furiously typing about how I'm wrong, and I really do hear you. I'm not here to tell you to be happy or sad about the state of modern gaming. I just wish more people didn't treat it like it was so black and white. I've been crucified on many of my videos for defending the likes of microtransactions in gaming and Cyberpunk being a good game the entire time. But I stand by all of it. For all the downsides microtransactions cause, like trying to get people to spend more money, changing game design in a bad way, or just ruining the community aspect, there's so many good things too, for example. What about the kids nowadays that don't have to beg their parents for money to get to play their new favorite games with friends? Instead, just downloading everything because it's free to play. What about the fact that these communities can grow even larger now to support a flourishing industry? What about the fact that these now insanely massive and expensive AAA titles and games can finally be funded by the microtransactions in the multiplayer offering? And why do we ignore the great examples of it too, like Valorant, where everything you buy is purely cosmetic and doesn't actually affect gameplay. Isn't that what we always wanted? I've spent around $100 on Valorant skins alone, more than I would on a full game as a kid ever, and I don't regret it at all. More money in the hands of a developer who is making a product I truly appreciate. That way others around the world can play without having to even spend a dime. Be really honest with yourself. Don't you wish you had these free opportunities as a kid? Don't even get me started on just how much better games technologically are now too. Frames per second are finally at an acceptable level. There are more ways to play on more devices on multiple platforms from a variety of publishers, all with more competition between the big players like Xbox and PlayStation than ever before, leading to more innovation in the industry. It's easy to look back at the games of old like Morrowind, Half-Life, and vanilla World of Warcraft and just say they were better, that gaming at the time had more passion and love, and that things have all gone to shit. But is that really the case? Let's stop being so negative. I'm tired of opening up my feed every day and seeing a plethora of gamers complain non-stop about everything they hate in the industry. Halo Infinite, Cyberpunk 2077, Fallout 76. If you really hate gaming so much, why are you even here? Don't answer that. I know why. It's because you grew such a strong passion for games as a kid. You have fond memories of those late nights raiding with friends on your favorite MMO, or thinking back to those emotional moments with characters from your favorite RPG, and screaming at the opposing team in Call of Duty lobbies with friends. None of that went away though. It just did for you. You grew up. You changed. Kids nowadays are all having those same experiences you did, and people like me, who still love and appreciate all the hard work devs do today. Don't get me wrong, I still love old games. I'll never forget Mass Effect, and I still like The Elder Scrolls Oblivion more than Skyrim, even factoring out the nostalgia. And yes, there are a lot of problems with modern gaming too, but let's not kid ourselves. There are so many amazing and memorable things being made nowadays too. And for me personally, I genuinely think it's better than anything we've seen before. Think back to when Cyberpunk 2077 first released and how much hate it got, but only recently has its player numbers surged once again and the love poured in from the community. For 2 years, the game and community saw nothing but hate. Players only focused on what was wrong and refused to appreciate the game for what it did so right. It's a perfect analogy for the place we're at now, where the videos that get the most views are negative, the posts that get the most clicks are sensational hate, and lots of discussion about games online is nothing more than an angry circle jerk. It's okay to hate games, but I want to remind everyone that it's okay to love them too. I know I do, and I know a lot of you do too. You want to know why developers keep screwing you over and over? Because we aren't being honest. Honest with developers, honest with each other, and even honest with ourselves. Instead, much of the online community is led by FOMO and herd mentality, simply latching onto each and every narrative from their favorite YouTubers or Reddit posts. It's easy to criticize and revile developers, publishers, monetization practices, bugs, and missing features. And it's okay to demand more. Ironically though, nowadays, the hard part is just admitting you even like something in the first place without a horde of angry degenerates standing in your way. Don't be afraid to love something just because others hate it. There are more amazing games nowadays than there has ever been, and more passionate and driven developers, writers, artists, and composers than ever. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. In a lot of ways, art, and our perception of it, is nothing more than a reflection of ourselves. Games never got worse. You did. They did. We did. So it's time we all get better.